Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Strong Collectors Podcast. I'm your host, Dakota, here with my co host, Jordan. And today we're going to be talking about the 5 rules to collecting Marvel Legends. Now, this is especially good if you're brand new to collecting, but if you've been in for a little bit, you probably already know some of these, but this is our rules that we mostly live by. And that's outside of the rules. You should always collect how you want to collect. Don't let Jordan or I, no matter how attractive we are, tell you how to collect your figures, because maybe you
right.
just want to go totally crazy off script and we don't collect the same way. That's totally fine. But I think on average, a lot of people will agree with these 5 rules. First rule is slow down. Now, Jordan, when you and I got back into collecting,
Yes,
we went crazy, and we probably had a new package on our. I think it would be rare if I went 3 days without getting a Marvel Legend, because
Yeah.
I would just find I was like, oh, that one's $5. Oh, that one's $10. That's a steal. I'm gonna get that.
Right.
Things were flying in, and then pretty soon I realized, I didn't actually like this figure or character all that much, but it was kind of one of those I can't afford not to spend $10 to get it.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at. Slow down.
Yeah. I think a large portion of our early purchases were eventually sold off because,
Right.
and I don't know though. I mean, that was pretty fun, I gotta say. But
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, I think if you're thinking, like long term, um, there's probably a lot of those figures we ended up getting in other capacities that we probably didn't need to spring for at that point. Um, But yeah, I think that can kind of be a common thing, is almost like this pressure to I got to build my collection to be super huge
Right.
immediately.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, like you said, you can do that if you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that can be where you get to that point if you're like, oh, I'm kind of stretched too thin and spending a bunch of money. And then maybe you don't have the money for stuff that you really do want. So,
Right.
um, you know, slow and steady,
Yeah.
but not always.
Yeah. I mean, it was totally fun to be able to buy all those and open up a new figure every day. And I think that we had that spark that made us want to start collecting. And then every time you open that figure, it's like, oh, we're in it. Like, I'm going to be collecting these until I die. So, maybe it was fuel to the fire that increased our passion. But I think, you are going to be collecting for a long time. If you get 500 figures in month 1, that's 500 figures you can't get in month 2. So,
Yeah.
spread it out. They're always going to be there.
Parcel it out a little bit. Give yourself something to look forward to.
Right.
Otherwise, you'll be like Alexander the Great, Dakota, and you'll look out on the land and be sad because there's no more land
I
to
mean, I
conquer
think that
because
is
you've gotten every
honestly
legend.
that's what got me to look at other lines, because I had gotten all the Marvel Legends that I had wanted. I was like, well, now what? I want to keep getting figures, and then I was like, I'll take a look at Mythic Legions, and
But
then
I'm
that
still
opened up
not
a new door.
happy.
Join us in our next episode where Jordan therapizes my toy buying habits.
Welcome to the Strong Collectors Podcast. Dakota has a problem.
And I can't stop.
Yes.
My rule
That's good
number
advice.
2. Rule number 2 is going to be join the Facebook groups. I think our favorite is Marvel Legends Collectors and More. That one has got the best admin team running it, best I don't know, owner. I don't know that you own a Facebook group, but it one's run the best.
Yeah.
Other ones can get kind of particular with their rules and things like that, but it's a great way to see what's coming out. You're going to hear the news of there's going to be a live stream coming up. It's also where you can do a lot of your purchasing of older figures and usually get better prices than if you go to eBay or things like that. So to get those older figures, I would always go to Facebook, because eBay is going to have them usually way higher.
Yeah, and you have the opportunity to buy multiple things at once. If you see a lot with some that are cheaper, you bundle them together, you find sellers you like, and then you can have the opportunity to sell yourself. So, those are definitely super helpful to get involved in. There's really no, I mean, there are quite a few. Some are probably better than others, like you said. But it's also just a cool way to be connected, I think, to the community outside of, I guess I don't really know what else, unless you were meeting people at
Conventions
Walmart or
or the
something, or
comic
cons,
shops
but
or yeah.
it's kinda
Right.
infrequent, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
It is nice to kind of see, like, I think that is another thing that really got me into it was, I don't even know why. Like, I just think I searched on Facebook Marvel Legends, and then I saw a group and then posted in there. And then people started messaging and commenting about, like, oh, that older figure, this or that. And I was like, I didn't even know that
mhm,
anybody cared about these until the Facebook groups. And then you get in those groups and there's quite a few people, like several thousand
mhm,
in each group. So, yeah, definitely join in the community, see what folks are talking about, meet some like-minded collectors. Rule number 3 is going to be, don't buy something that's hot right now. Now,
mm,
again, you may think like this figure is never going to get remade, and there's maybe a good chance that that's true. I don't know what those figures are, but I'm sure they're out there. But we'll take,
mhm,
like, right now, or especially the last few months, the X-Men 97 Wolverine was going for like
mhm,
50 or more sealed. And
mhm,
I guess it's a specific look to the cartoon, but essentially it's a blue and yellow Wolverine, and Hasbro's going to make a new one of those every year. So
mhm,
hold your horses on things like that. Don't spend $50. Save that money where you could buy 2 of the new Wolverines when it
mhm.
comes out,
Right.
or Spider-Mans or Iron Mans. It's those kind of figures that, like, I wouldn't recommend you go
Mhm,
out and drop a whole bunch of money. Retro Electro, Retro Mysterio are kind of high. Those are classic
mhm.
Spider-Man villains. They're probably going to get remade.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and the important part of that is I would say I wouldn't, yeah, buy those if it's this sense of like, this is my only chance to get these, or I'm never going to see
Hmm.
this again. I think that can kind of be what lead people to do that, because yeah, if it's like I really want this figure, I don't care, that's whatever. But if you're
Right.
going into it with, oh my gosh, like I need this Wolverine because I don't know when I'll see another one, like Dakota said, most figures are going to get remade in some capacity. You might need to wait a little
Hmm.
bit, and then usually by that time they're improved tooling and stuff too, and it's
Yeah.
cheaper. So there's that to
Yeah.
think about.
And like, if it is a specific look, like you really want that House of X, Professor X, it's not really a hot figure right now, so maybe that's a bad example, but I doubt they're ever going to make that style of Professor X again. So
Right.
you might want to buy that.
Hmm.
But, like I said, any character that is classic enough, and that's kind of where the Facebook groups come in. You could go into the Facebook groups and say, hey, I really like this figure. Do you think they'll ever make it again? And then the
Hmm.
Facebook groups kind of usually have a good sense of what Hasbro tends to make more often than others.
Hmm.
So, um, now, sticking with the Facebook groups, in rule number 4 is going to be, sell what you don't like. Maybe, like us, you bought a ton of figures at the very beginning of your collecting, and you've
Hmm.
decided, I just don't have space for all these and I want to buy newer, better things. That's where you would want to sell. So we've got whole episodes. We've got a whole playlist on buy, sell, trade. So you can check those for like specifics, but we would recommend probably going to the Facebook groups for the most part, especially for loose figures. Um, yeah, we've had a lot of success there. You can see how much I've made last year from selling in the Facebook groups. It tends to be the less fees, and then you kind of know who you're selling it to. I kind of like that. I like to know that my toys are going to a good home. You could always go to eBay as well. You're going to have a little bit higher fees to pay for selling there. It's a little bit
Hmm.
more hassle, but sometimes for like those really expensive things, if I've got something rare, I'll maybe take that to eBay, just because there's a little bit higher chance of getting more out of your rare item.
Hmm.
But no need to hold on to things that no longer fit in your collection. Collections grow, you may change. So sell off those figures to make space for the new stuff that you want. Now, in order to know maybe what you want to sell off, my rule number 5 is going to be, stay up to date on the leaks. So this is going to go well with your buying and your selling, because when the leaks come out, if you want that spoiled for the year, Jordan and I like to do that because then we can kind of budget for the year. We know what's coming out that we want, but it also tells us what of our older figures that maybe have a little bit higher value are going to see a big price drop in the future because there's going to be a newer, better version of that character. So something
Mhm.
with like this year's leaks, spoiler alert, they leaked Man Thing and Venom Pool. We've seen Man Thing
Mhm.
already. So if you had your old Man Thing build a figure, he was going pretty high for quite a while. You could have sold him higher, buy the new Man Thing for
Mhm.
$40. You could probably buy two Man Things for the price of that older one. Same with Venom Pool. He was going for like $100 for a while. When this new one
Mhm.
comes out, I would assume it's going to be around that $40 to $50 mark.
Mhm.
Sell off the older thing, buy the newer one. That's kind of our philosophy on it. But you could do that with anything. And then it kind of gives you that like excitement to know, like, oh, I've been trying to build up my Brotherhood of Evil Mutants display, and now I know that Destiny is coming this year, so I'll be able to fill that out. So I'll make room on the shelf to have that display ready for the figure.
Yeah, I think that that's very helpful too, and kind of goes back into that idea of not buying things when they're super high,
Mm-hmm.
because if you have the leaks, you can anticipate what's coming, and if it's like maybe you were thinking about jumping for some figure that's really expensive, but if you hold off just a couple more months, there's I think it happened. Trying to remember. I mean, I know a lot of
I mean,
people
I
did
think
that with the
about that.
Scarlet Spider. That was still going
Yep.
pretty high. And then the newer one came out, which I think is better, much better, and was way
Mm-hmm.
cheaper. So it just examples like that. If you, I don't know. I mean, I guess if you really are like, I don't want to know what's coming, but at some point you're going to
Mm-hmm.
find out, right? So I don't know. I think that makes sense.
So those are our 5 rules of collecting. Once you have your collection, you're going to need to display that collection. So if you want to check out our videos on how to display your action figures, you can check them out over here. And until next time, make sure you're liking, sharing, and subscribing, and stay strong.